Welcome to day 35 of the Seeker's Guide to Soul Contact. This course consists of 365 lessons to bring you closer to spirit and soul. If you missed any of these classes, the links are available on my website at freeread.com and several other places. The theme for the day is I will face any feelings of victimization. If you attempted yesterday's lesson, you searched through your past and present to find examples of where you took the role of the victim. If you're like most, you were reluctant to admit any such cases. After all, a victim is seen as someone who is weak, and none of us like to see ourselves as being weak. Even when playing the victim to the hilt, the person usually does not see himself as weak and is unlikely to admit he is a victim for that reason. Instead of admitting to being a weak victim, he will see himself as a strong blamer and justifier and accuser. He thinks that at least he would be very strong if those he blames would just get out of the way. This, as with all emotional blockages, is very difficult to pin down for what it is. For the feeling nature distorts and turns the truth upside down in his heart, so black is white and weak is strong, and so on. Let us look at an example. Jack was in an accident that caused him to lose some work. He felt the insurance company owed him a large settlement, so he retained an attorney and went after the largest amount possible. After the dust settled, he received a payment, but not as much as he thought he deserved. The injury involved his shoulder, which was basically healed at the time. But he got a doctor to say that there were still problems, and so he legally pursued a larger settlement. This attack on the insurance company and pretending that the shoulder was worse than it was went on for 5 years. Because energy follows thought, his shoulder did develop more problems. And the final settlement Jack received only paid his legal expenses. At this point, Jack's life was in shambles, and he blamed the insurance company for all his woes. He was a strong person, he told himself, but the insurance company, not doing its job, ruined his life. Jack, who is a terrible victim of his own thoughts, does not see himself as a victim. Now consider this. Jill had a similar accident with similar injuries and insurance coverage. She took the insurance offer, which she thought was fair, and rejected the advice of an attorney to emphasize her injuries and go after more money. Within a month, she was back at work and the shoulder was healed enough so any problem was negligible. The rest of her life was lived as if the accident had never happened. The thought of being a victim never entered into her head, but neither did she see herself as particularly strong. She just saw herself as someone making the best of her life using the cards which she had been dealt. Notice that Jack saw himself as the strong one, but was the real victim of his own making and suffered in quality of life. Jill didn't focus on being weak or strong, but just making the best of each situation as it came up. Jill, in not trying to gain strength through blaming others, was an example of true strength. Of the two, Jill was the one who was not placing blockages between herself and the soul. There are two major difficulties for the seeker in discovering his victimhood. The first is that people do not want to see themselves as weak, even when they are participating in weakness. The second is that the emotional nature distorts reality to conform with desire. Since most desire to be strong, the emotional self will distort the victimization to appear as if the person has strength. Sometimes the seeker is too involved in a distortion to get the truth from himself. That is why we have relationships. Sometimes others can reflect the truth back to us better than we can see it for ourselves. The assignment today is to ask a friend, spouse, or associate who knows you well whether or not he thinks you ever play the victim. If he thinks you do play the victim, then hear him or her out and consider that there is some truth in what is related. Do not get upset. Do this exercise with at least one person. 2 or 3 would be even better, but find at least one. End with this affirmation: I am no longer a victim of my own making. Meditate on these things, and we will see you tomorrow.